Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are back at it, episode 32. It's March 12th. I can't believe it's already mid-May. I'm sorry, it's May 12th, not March. Can't even keep my months straight. Um, just had Mother's Day yesterday, so a lot to get into with this awesome guest that I have on today, Jennifer DuPont with Kelly. Welcome, Jennifer, to Speakeasy HR.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking and keeping in touch and picked the day that worked for you. And so we've had this on the calendar for quite some time now. And
Yep.
so it's been nice to talk and connect up until this point. And now you get to come on and talk a little bit about your past in HR and everything you're doing in your world. So how was your Mother's Day? I know you have kids.
I do. I do. It was great. Pretty low key day, but nice to be home and celebrate and be grateful for having the
Yeah.
time with them.
Yeah. Did you have decent weather up there in Michigan?
We did. It was beautiful out. It
Was it?
was 70s, 80s. It was pretty warm and sunny, and
Yeah.
definitely spent a bit of time outside enjoying the weather.
Nice. Yeah. I was at a soccer tournament and I didn't wear sunscreen and I didn't think I needed
Uh-oh.
it. So I definitely have a
Always
couple
need
of
sunscreen.
tan lines and I woke up and my face was like very red. I was like, oh man. So yeah, I made that mistake, but it is okay. All right. Well, for those who are watching live on LinkedIn and YouTube, welcome. If you've never watched an episode, I started this last summer, so it's almost been a year, but really I've enjoyed connecting with people like Jennifer and everybody in HR and business, and I basically ask them what's the topic you're most passionate about in your world right now of business and HR. And so all of these topics connect with the guest in a positive, powerful way. So we're going to have just a genuine conversation. It is live. So if you are having questions along the way, engage with us, ask questions, put in comments. We're live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So I my name is David Noe. I've hosted this. I'm the editor, producer, everything in between. So I am a one-man show here. And so we do have someone watching on LinkedIn. So welcome. Glad to have you here and love the interaction. So we'll obviously get questions as we go. So we're going to go through a couple of things. Jennifer, you've not been on this, so some people may not know, about your background. But if you just want to kind of explain what you've been into and what your background is, we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks for the opportunity. I have been in HR for many, many years now. I actually started in operations, which I love because it gave me a little different perspective coming into the field. But I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be in HR. So I have spent many years in many different disciplines. So I've done the COE work in HRS systems, compensation, business partner for many different functions. I have supported corporate initiatives and projects. And right now, my current role is leading an amazing group that is our shared services function for Kelly.
Very cool. And you've been there for 20 years.
20 years. It was 20 years recently. Yes. So
Congratulations. That is a
started right out of
big,
college. And yeah,
big
it's quite a
milestone.
milestone. But
Yeah.
I've had a lot of different opportunities to move around. I think I did the math. I think I've had 16 different roles at Kelly. So
Oh my
definitely
gosh.
a lot of different experiences to jump around and support different things. But yeah, I really enjoyed working for Kelly and the
Yeah.
opportunities that it's provided me.
Yeah. And you're in Michigan, so obviously you have
Um,
the seasons. I'm in Kentucky, so we're in similar weather, and it's obviously coming up to summer. So everybody that's traveling up to Michigan, you get a lot of tourists up there. And I tell people my wife and I's good friends were up for a wedding over the weekend. They've never really been up to Michigan, so they were in I think Birmingham area, and they
okay.
just were like, "Oh, it was so great." Like I had another friend go to a concert downtown Detroit, and I'm just like, "Yeah, there's a lot. If you've never been to Michigan, like, oh my gosh, it's
You got to come
incredible."
to Michigan. You know, it's funny growing up, I never left the state. We always took
Really?
vacation around the state. Yes, because there's so much to do in Michigan, the Upper
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Peninsula, up north. west side of the state. I mean, you can pick just a different town and go for a week and really enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
kind of fun fact, as a child, I never really left the state, and we always had an amazing week-long vacation right here in Michigan. So yeah, lots of
Yeah.
different things to do. Fall's my
Yeah.
favorite. Fall's a beautiful time. So if you haven't been to Michigan, come on up for the fall.
Absolutely. What's your favorite place to go, or where would you recommend people go if they come up
Oh,
for a?
my favorite place in Michigan. That's a tough one. One of my favorite places growing up, I spent a lot of time in Mayo, Michigan. So we
Okay.
have the Asabo River up there, and we used to always canoe. So
Okay.
I loved canoeing when I was younger and just kind of going through the woods. It would be quiet. So
Yeah.
it's a very small town, but definitely check out the canoeing scene there. It's quiet, peaceful, and just a good childhood memory of mine.
Now, the big question is, where do you have to be considered up north?
I just saw this the other day. Um, I think I saw this on a post recently, and I think my favorite one was the Zilwaukee Bridge. So there's a bridge, kind of as you're
Yep.
heading up north, and once you get past that, it feels like up north. So yeah, I think once you get kind of that Saginaw Bay City, for me, that's up
Yeah.
north for me. But I know it,
Yeah.
it does vary depending on where you live. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. So I grew up in Southeast Michigan, and for my whole life growing up, once I left for college, we would go to Northern Michigan in the summers and the winter. And so West Branch was one
Mm,
spot we always would stop at and get lunch, get gas, go shopping, whatever, before we headed north. So that was always when I would consider it being up north. So West
that's a
Branch.
really good point. West
Yep.
Branch, yeah,
Yep.
there's the outlet malls there, and there
Yeah.
was a hotel. We used to usually stop for a night on the way up north there too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a good point. And what about
Yep.
you? What about your favorite city in Michigan? I should ask you
Oh
that. Look at you.
I mean, Mackinac Island's awesome. It's
Hmm.
obviously where a lot of people go. I've never been to the Cherry Festival. I've been to Traverse City a lot. I've been, Charlevoix. So Charlevoix is probably one of the areas that I really, growing up, enjoyed going to. Harbor Springs, Petoskey, Gaylord. I mean, Gaylord's probably my favorite. That's where we would
Okay.
go. We had a cabin for years. My family had a cabin just outside of downtown. So we would go up for New Year's. We'd go to Boing Mountain. We'd go skiing. We'd go fishing, just year round. We'd be up there. And I don't get up there as much now that I live in Kentucky. But yeah, definitely Gaylord or anywhere between there and, Petoskey, Traverse City. There's just so many nice places. And I haven't been to the dunes. I've been like trying to
Mm,
get to the dunes. I've been trying to get on that side of the state, and
beautiful.
I'm playing golf. I mean, I'm a big golfer. My kids love to golf, so there's just so many golf courses to go to as well.
Hmm.
So anyway, for those
Gotta
watching,
get over
listening,
there.
definitely get to Michigan if you can. Everybody here tends to go south. They want to go to Hilton Head or somewhere in the
Okay.
Carolinas. If it's 8 hours away, they want to drive. And I keep telling people, and my sister-in-law, she went up to where'd she go? Traverse City, I think, with some of her in-laws, and it's about the same distance of driving. So they went north instead of south. So um, anyway, so if you are, again, we're live watching. If you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, I also have a Word of the Week blog out. So every Monday I post this on Speakeasy HR. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you are following the blog, or you can subscribe to it, get it to your inbox. This week it's on self-love. So go out and check that. But May is really, excuse me, May is really one of those months, I think, in HR, especially mental health, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's really one that I think every year it seems to become more and more of a conversation for people in HR and business, and how the world of work is shifting and shaping out, and how much impact HR has in that. So go check that out and see what you think. But you can subscribe and catch all of them throughout the year. So if you have not watched this before, I think Jennifer has maybe listened to a couple of episodes. We have a fun thing called the world famous envelope icebreaker game. This is one way to learn a little bit more about the guest. So if you can think of a number between 1 through 15, I'll give you a couple seconds as we play this, but you get to pick 1 through 15 and we'll see what question you get. So for
11.
just think of a number and we'll get to it here. . All right. Jennifer, 1 through 15, what do you got?
11.
7?
11.
11. Sorry, 7, 11. Okay. Number 11 it is. Let's see what you get. All right. If money and time were no object, what would you be doing right now?
Ooh, right now?
Oh, geez, I can't do that very yeah.
Right now, it's a beautiful day out. I would have a blanket and a book, and I would be at my local metro park sitting by the lake,
Okay.
enjoying maybe a cup of coffee
Yeah.
and my phone off and just reading, relaxing, and taking in nature.
There you go. Sounds pretty
In
nice.
the moment. Yep, that's what I would do right now.
Sounds really nice. Very good. All right, one more question. Other than 11, what do you got?
Let's go with 7.
7. 7,
Gotta do
11.
7-Eleven.
There you go. All right. This one. When you were in grade school, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Hey, everybody. I'm Lori Rudiman. What are you doing? Working? Nah, you're listening to a podcast about work, and that barely counts. So while you're at it, check out my show, Punk Rock HR, now on the Work Defined Network. We chat with smart people about work, power, politics, and money. Are we succeeding? Are we fixing work? Probably not. Work still sucks, but tune in for some fun, a little nonsense, and a fresh take on how to fix work once and for all.
Ooh, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Did you?
Always wanted to be a veterinarian. Yep. Big animal lover, had a
Yeah.
dog, and that was going to be it for many years until
Okay.
I had to put my dog to sleep. And then I thought I could not do that all day. So
Yeah.
that's when I shifted focus to HR.
That's yeah,
I
that's
still love
definitely.
animals and taking care of them, just not.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Very cool. All right. Well, like I said, we've talked for a little bit now on you coming on to Speakeasy HR and just talking about your world and experience in HR, and so that's kind of what led you to this topic, and really excited to get into it. So before we jump into that, I have just a couple of messages from our presenting sponsor, and then we will get to it. So if you are watching live, think of a question for Jennifer and put that in the chat. We'll be checking that as we go through the conversation. So we'll chat here in 1 minute and we'll get it started here.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So in the world of HR, you got to have good technology and pay people right and hire them and onboard them and offer them great benefits. So if you are frustrated, looking for somebody else out there in the world of payroll and HR technology, look us up. We are in the Midwest, but we can work anywhere you are, and would love to connect. So we are going to get into it a little bit on your topic, Jennifer. So when I, asked you again, what did you want to bring to this this show, and everything you've done at Kelly and just the experience of HR, everybody's experience is different. My experience in HR for not 20 years, but close, is different than yours. So I guess when you look back at when you started in HR, like, what was the one thing that grew and gravitated you into that when you started out?
Well, I would say I started working from a really young age. I was 14 when I started working, and I had a couple different jobs. And by the time I was 16, I had experience at a company where I interacted with HR, and it was really negative. I saw that HR had a lot of opportunity to make a difference, and they didn't leverage it.
Yeah.
And no one liked HR, they feared HR, or they didn't see the value in it. And it was really, really frustrating. And I remember one time I was working in retail, it was really busy, Christmas season. If anyone's ever worked retail, you know how crazy it gets around the holidays. And I'm in line and I'm busy, and HR comes in with a platter of cookies. And I'm like, I'm bringing up people. We're all running around. No one has time to stop for a cookie. And it's like,
Yeah.
this isn't what we need. We needed
Yeah.
help recruiting. We needed help staffing. We needed help retaining the important people so that we weren't short staffed. And
Right.
they just kind of missed the boat there. So I knew from a really young age that people experienced HR through a lot of different lenses, and that sitting in between the business and the people was a really important place where you could make a difference if you took it seriously. So I would say probably from the time I was 16, I knew that I wanted to get into this space. I wanted to understand the business and what they needed and take it seriously, because I think we all have those negative experiences and the brand suffers because of it. And, we have that uphill battle that we're fighting every day to show value in HR. It's because of interactions like that. So
Yeah.
anything we can do to help build a positive experience. And yes, we have to advocate for the business, but to advocate for the people as well, I think is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, you worked at Circuit City, which if you're
I
old enough
did.
to remember, if you're old enough to remember Radio Shack and Circuit City, and oh my gosh, there's so many brands that I see, like whether it's on social media, TikTok, or somebody like talking about the brands that they grew up with. It's crazy how it's changed. So obviously some of those businesses are no longer
Yeah.
around, but yeah, I think the experience that you felt and went through, I'm sure a lot of people did and still do. And it's one thing that when I tell people about HR and I tell people what I do, it's so funny. Some of the people that have just no idea, they have no idea. And when I go on LinkedIn, I see people post things about HR and that they're in HR. And there was one thing recently that I read and I was just like, oh my gosh. So I pulled it off and I was just going to read through this real quick because it's crazy. So he said, so you're the one who fires people. I hear this all the time when I tell people I work in HR. And it said, let me clarify something. HR is not the executioner. Our role is to make sure the process is handled with integrity, compliance, and due process. We are not there to deliver the news others want to avoid. That means reviewing documentation or lack of it, assessing how clearly expectations were communicated, confirming feedback and support we provided, evaluating whether the manager is mitigating risk or creating it. HR is more often than not the one pushing back on terminations, not to defend poor performance, but to ensure the employee was not set up to fail by leadership that avoided hard conversations. Too often, people in management want the title, but not the responsibility. They are quick to give praise and raises, but then things go south. They want HR to clean it up. HR makes sure it's done right. You cannot delegate accountability. You cannot skip process. And you cannot call yourself a leader if you are only showing up when it's easy. So I was just like, wow, and that's obviously more about terminations. And a lot of people just think HR is there to terminate people. And so as soon as you see HR, you're in trouble. And so it's like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I read that and I was just like, yeah, that really is pretty accurate. Like how much goes in before that conversation actually happens, right?
Absolutely.
And that's one of the hardest things. I've worked with people that enjoyed terminating people. Like they enjoyed it and they were excited. And I'm like, you were excited to fire somebody who we have to say is not working out and here's why and whatever. But so, yeah, I think the experience of the HR professional has definitely evolved. And just, how HR can be successful and how they can bring success to the employees and the HR professionals themselves. So in your opinion and in your experience, Jennifer, what makes the HR experience successful for both the employees and the HR professionals themselves in an organization?
Well, I think to build off of what you just shared, it's when we can help create those systems that create, fairness, enable people to grow and succeed. I mean, yes, HR does that, but also when we can help coach those leaders. And it's
Yeah.
really important to know that a strong HR professional sits in between the business and the people.
Yep.
So a lot of people will say, HR is just doing what the business wants, or they're just doing what the leader wants. I mean, yes, we are here to support business, but we are here to advocate for people as well. So I
Yeah.
love that you shared that, because those are not conversations that I have. I always say that I don't terminate people. I don't put them on performance plans. I help coach the
Yeah.
leaders to do that. And it's not an easy conversation. And
Right.
there are many conversations I've had with leaders that struggle to do that, and they don't want to do it. But you're right. It's part of being a leader. You get to do the good news. You get to do the difficult news. There's a way to do it compassionately, and good HR professionals can help support them to do that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to be seen as part of the business. You have to be integrated where you understand their language, and that you're really there to try to mitigate risk and drive revenue,
Yep.
and to create opportunities for everybody within the business, and personally, that growth and development. So
Yep.
yeah, it's hard because HR has gotten a bad reputation by doing, being the people doing those things, and it's not easy, but there is a way where you can get to know the business. You can
Yeah.
become trusted as an advisor, and they might not want to hear what you have to say all the time, but if they know that you're doing it with compassion and that you're doing it to protect them, to help them grow and develop as leaders, they will begin to embrace you, and to trust you within their business, and it provides a better experience. So yeah, I mean, there's always
Absolutely.
ups and downs in business, and it does take some time, but I often find when I start supporting people, sometimes if they've had a bad experience with HR or a person, you're starting from the bottom, and you've got to build that trust and work your way uphill. And it's not easy, but it can be done. It can
Yeah.
be done. And people will learn HR likes to have fun. HR does want to help you. I mean, yes, we're not always your friend. It's kind of like I tell my kids, I'm your parent, not your friend, but
Yep.
we are here to help and support you, and we want to be positive. So yeah,
Yeah.
there is a way to do the experience the right way.
Yep. So we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, Jennifer, and one question came in from Theodore. It says, what was your favorite classroom insight that has translated into practice for your day-to-day?
Hi, Teo. So Teo has
Teo.
supported me. Yes. So I just finished my master's degree of, it's an executive master's of organization development from Bowling Green State University. And Teo has supported me through the process. So grateful for
Teo.
him.
Thank you,
And that's
Teo.
why he's asking what my favorite classroom experience has been. And it's a great question, Teo. And I think to answer that, I would say we did a study abroad trip to Italy for several days,
Okay.
and we got to work with some consulting firms in Italy and
Wow.
learn more about OD and change. And I think for me, that was probably one of my favorite experiences, because it really did reinforce the fact that OD and even HR are all about humans. It doesn't matter where you sit, what you do, what level you are. We're all people. We're bringing our best to the workplace. We're trying to do our best, and everything that we can continue to do to support people in any way
Yeah.
will make us all better and stronger. So I think
Yeah.
that insight and experience for me was validating and very inspiring, and I was grateful that we had it.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. And before we came on live, I was asking Jennifer a last minute question, and she does have a personal brand statement that she has designed, and I actually created one recently. So it's one question that I'll probably ask future guests as well. So I created one because of everything I'm involved in. I run a small business with my wife. I'm in HR. I'm creating podcasts and talking to professionals like Jennifer. So my personal brand statement, with everything that I'm doing right now in my life, obviously it can change, but to create positive and meaningful experiences that inspire, uplift, and make a lasting impact on individuals. So everything I'm
Love it.
doing right now, this is the brand statement that I put on my LinkedIn profile. So for you out there who are listening, if you don't have a personal brand statement, I would challenge you to maybe create one. And if you do have one, put it in the chat, because I would love to see what yours is. So Jennifer, you said you had one, and would love
I
to hear
do.
I would love to hear what yours is.
And I did tell you this came out of my my master's experience,
Yep.
because I've obviously thought about it in the past, and I told you I struggled with defining myself in a certain way. I can be a free spirit sometimes, and I don't want to confine myself to one thing, but I did appreciate the exercise. And I had come up with that I hope to inspire and enable others to find value and purpose by humanizing the workplace through meaningful connections. So I do really find value in, those individual interactions. I think when I was younger, I really did want to work in a big corporate setting. I thought that was important because to
Yeah.
me, I could make the biggest difference if I was in a large global organization.
Yeah.
And I do feel that when I come to work every day. But I think the older I get and the more experienced I am, I realize it really is in those individual connections and conversations that we can coach and we can inspire and help people in the biggest ways.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. And you're the first one that I've asked this question. So
Oh, okay.
future
I
guests
liked it.
will, yeah, future guests will maybe have that same question. So, um, so what's a common misconception that people have about HR, and how do you see it playing out in your day to day or in today's workplace?
A common misconception is that I think we touched on this a bit, that we enjoy those difficult moments, that, people
Yeah.
find joy in having to terminate people or making those tough decisions. And that's really not the case. I think, as much as HR professionals are evolving to understand the business environment, so speaking the language, understanding how your company brings in revenue and remains profitable, sometimes there are difficult decisions that have to be made and we have to support that. But it's not something that people enjoy. Again, a good HR professional gets to know their people, gets to know the leader as well. And, you become, I don't want to say friends, but you have relationships with people and you get to know them and their aspirations and how you can support them. So
Yep.
I still hear that every once in a while. And I'm like, I don't think people enjoy, having to deliver difficult news or, delaying increases or things like that. Those are not things that HR professionals typically enjoy. But, with any job, we have the positive things that we get to do. And there's a lot of positive in HR. I mean, creating opportunities and, promotions and helping people that are struggling with performance issues rise above them and
Yeah.
developing leaders. Those are all really amazing things that HR professionals get to support as well. So
Yeah.
I choose to focus on the positive where I can as well.
Yeah. So you've been in your organization for 20 years. You've seen it evolve, and for HR in the next 5 to 10 years, whether you're at Kelly or somewhere else, how will the role of HR evolve, do you think, just overall in the next 5 to 10 years with the change of work environments, DEI efforts, mental health awareness, things that we didn't really have to make priority or focus on 5 or 10 years ago,
Mhm.
pre COVID, and it's just really changed since 2015, 2020, and now we're at 2025. Like 2030, 2035, what's HR going to be like, you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot different as we've seen, let's say over the last 10 years. But to me, that's the exciting place to be. If we think back 10
Yeah.
years ago, I mean, yeah, it was a lot about transactions and compliance and, checking the box to make sure that people were following the rules. Where, yeah, I would say since COVID, we've definitely been challenged to understand people on a
Yeah.
granular level as humans a lot more. So when we talk about things like mental health and DE&I, we have to understand how it impacts people in the workplace. So HR has continued to become more strategic, and I think they will need to be even more. So, if I think about my role, one of my previous roles as a business partner, you could spend all day chasing people and, helping people with performance plans and putting through recs and hiring people. But the reality is, we also have to understand AI and technology coming through. I think it's pretty exciting that we can start to take those transactional things off of our plate so we can really focus on getting to know our leaders,
Yeah.
getting to know our business, and how we can really support and enable the growth. So if we say we want to be a true business partner, you have to get the business, you have to get out of your HR seat, you
Yeah.
have to travel, you have to go to the offices, get to know the people. I've done that several times throughout my career where it's easy to sit in a corporate seat and think what's going on and think what's important. But if you go sit at a branch or you get out to a plant and you walk the floors and start to understand what's really going on out there, it's a lot different. So I've done that a few times, and it's really grounding. So I think people need to start to understand the business, know how to read a P&L and become friends with finance, because many years ago when I went into HR, I had a lot of people in my program in my undergrad because there wasn't a math course. So that's changed. HR does need to do math. We do we do have to understand analytics, and I think you have to be pretty up and up with finance and understand how your company makes money. So if you are here, that would be my challenge back to people. A lot of people I talked to in HR ended up here for some reason. It wasn't intentional. And I think that happens sometimes in life. But if you are here, I would really hope that you want to be here and you want to make a difference. And if you don't, then take a look in the mirror and figure out what you want to do. But if you're going to be here, I think you have an obligation and a responsibility to do the right thing for the people and for the business. And that will continue to evolve as we come across more technology. Like I said, AI, it's something I'm leaning into. It's
Yeah.
something my team and my company is leaning into as we try to figure out how to get things to people as quickly as possible and enable people. I think it's exciting. Back in the day, you had to call HR for everything. And I don't think people want to have to call HR. I think people want to find what they need right away and have
Yeah.
that information. Because if you're in the business, you're moving quickly. You don't have time to stop and call somebody or sit on an hour training call. You're moving fast. So I think we've got to always keep perspective. And if you haven't been out to visit people in the field, I think make it a point to do that this year, because the landscape is changing and you've got to be relevant.
Yeah. And I've been really fascinated by some of the way that people are shaping questions back to their team, whether they're in person or virtual. And one of them was, don't just ask, how are you doing? And this could be HR, this could be the manager, like at some kind of like one-on-one check-in. Like their thing is, ask them, how are you doing really? They add that really at the end, and it's like, how are you really doing? Like, is there anything that's holding you back? Because let's face it, there's 70 something percent of people disengaged in their jobs. And you want to talk about an impact. Like, if you can help somebody get more engaged in their job and motivated, it's going to depend on how old they are and where they are. You and I have kids. Some people that aren't married yet, that don't have kids yet, their motivations are different than us, where we have kids and sports and families and a lot of obligations beyond our day-to-day work. So like that flexibility and the balance of like personal life and work life, and so it's how are you doing really, and being able to really understand what's motivating people in their current job. And if they aren't motivated, then it's like, how can you help them? You can't just force them to enjoy their job more, but maybe they're just not doing what they're really cut out to do in the company. And if they have a background in finance or something else, marketing, whatever, it's like, what do you really want to do here? Like, do you want to learn something, or do you want to be in a different department? Not because you hate your boss, but like, can we help you get to some other job? Because you said, how many jobs have you had at Kelly? 16?
I think 16. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you hear that? I mean, I haven't heard that very much. Most people
Yeah, it's a
leave
tough
jobs.
question. It is, because I think sometimes when leaders ask that, I think there's two parts to what you just said there. The how are you really can get personal. And I think for many years we were taught to keep work and personal life separate. So,
Yeah.
you show up, you put your mask on, you do your job, and then you go home and you worry about your personal life. So, if I ask you, how are you really, you might share something with me that I have to deal with now, or I have to carry. So
Yeah.
we have to equip leaders to say, hey, you're struggling with something. How can I help support you? Do I need to offer you an accommodation? Do we need to talk
Yeah.
about the EAP? Maybe you need to take a leave. So, we have to be equipped to handle the whole person. And then also, someone's struggling in a job or they're not engaged. We have to be open to what that looks like. And
Right.
most people don't know what other options they have around the company. I would say, yes, I've moved around a lot, and some of that was opportunity, but a lot of that was me being curious, asking questions, being more assertive about, hey, I'm ready for something new. So, we have to own our careers, and we have to
Yeah.
help people work through that. So there's a lot to unpack when you ask that question.
Yeah. Oh,
And I
yeah.
think leaders have to be, that's where HR can come in and equip people to help with those conversations, because, people don't come to work looking to do their worst or to fail or to struggle. I do believe people are here to try to succeed. And if they are struggling, there's a reason for it. And it might
Yeah.
be personal. And then we do
Yeah.
have to work through it. And that's where HR can come in and be an advocate to help people and protect them when they're
Yeah.
going through things. And I think that's something we've uncovered throughout the last few years
Yep.
in a bigger way. That's not easy, but I think by navigating it and being open with it and understanding what does help engage different people, like you said, you've
Right.
got kids, I've got working parents on my team, and I'm really open about that. We are here. You have
Right.
families, you have important things going on. When you support people and give them flexibility, it pays dividends. So
Yeah.
you've got to build those systems and structures, and I think you have to lead by example. There
Mm-hmm.
were many years where I was the one that was always working the extra hours and missing things because I didn't want to be the one that wasn't there for something. And throughout the
Yeah.
years, I've had to learn, if I want my people to take time off and enjoy those moments, I have to do that. I have to lead by example and build a team around me that can step in while I'm gone. And it's very rewarding, but it definitely, it's been a change in our culture, I think, in the last couple of years, and I'm here for it. I think it's really exciting, but it definitely can get messy. And I think that's where HR can
Yeah.
really add value by jumping in to help support people and leaders.
Absolutely. So if you look back in your HR career, is there a moment that really challenged you and just really helped shape who you are now as a leader, and what style you have as a leader?
Yes, there's definitely been a lot of pivotal moments in my career, but one that really stands out to me was, I think I was taught from a young age that you work really hard and you do good work and everybody's going to notice. And in some cases, that's the case, and others, maybe not. And I did work really hard for many, many years, but I had one leader that I was super grateful for, because he came in and he trusted me, and he gave me a new role and a really big assignment and said, run with it. And I did. And it was probably one of the most challenging HR experiences I'd ever had. And I worked through it and I learned a lot of lessons. But at the end of the day, he taught me to lead with trust and enable people and be there to support them, but not micromanage them. And I really learned a lot from that. And I have tried to live that as a leader now that I have, a team under me in HR. And it really was eye-opening for me because, like I said,
Yeah.
for a lot of years there, you do your best and you hope that someone's going to notice, but to have someone come in and actually see your potential. I mean, I think we're all in roles that we might be succeeding in, but we might have potential to do more. And he was definitely one that saw that in me and, gave me that opportunity. And I was really grateful. It was overwhelming at times, but
Yeah.
I learned to trust myself as well in the process and never
Yeah.
look back. So
That's
those
awesome.
leaders, I think, can make or break us.
Yep.
I've definitely, throughout my entire career, like I said, going back to retail, you have many different leaders when you're younger, but sometimes we learn how we don't want to lead or what not to do. But
Yeah.
I've definitely had some really good leaders that have helped make me the leader I am today.
Absolutely. I've had great leaders. I have a current leader that's awesome. She's probably one of my favorite bosses, if not my favorite. So thank you, Amy. But I've had managers that just I didn't trust. I didn't
Mhm.
respect, and it was very challenging. Like it was like I was in a challenging situation because of the individuals I was having to report to. And so that's why a lot of people, I think, do leave jobs. They
Mhm.
love the company, they love the brand of the company, they love everything about it. But if they just don't get along with their manager and they don't, it's very difficult. And so that's where HR has to obviously be involved in how to develop managers and leaders and really have those difficult conversations. It's easy to manage people when they all do their jobs and they show
Absolutely.
up, and you may not get 100% from every employee, but like I think managers expect 100% all the time, and it just won't happen. So, it's a very company specific situation when it comes to how you can engage the managers to really manage better and engage the team and show empathy, which was one of my other questions for you about empathy, because I hear that all the time. It's like, you got to have empathy, you got to show empathy, so what role does empathy play in creating more of a stronger HR experience, and how can HR leaders really practice it consistently?
For me, I always think back to putting myself in my shoes when I was younger and where was the HR I needed? Where was the person I needed
Yeah.
to advocate for when I saw things going wrong in the workplace, leaders that shouldn't be leading people? Like I said, looking for, staffing so that we weren't short staffed and I was struggling. Like, where was the person I needed to advocate for me in my career and just to be that role model when I didn't have it? And it's really difficult. Actually, it's really easy to remove yourself from that as you move up in your career. Because, like I said, especially sitting in a corporate role, you're not in the day to day of the people that are actually boots on the ground struggling. So for me, it's really important to ground myself in having those conversations with all levels. I think HR gets really stuck at that top level. I support a leader. I'm just going to have touch bases with them. You have to get out of your seat and you have to talk to all levels. You have to understand what their needs are and you really have to put yourself in their position. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but when when you're helping someone that's struggling through something in their life, in the workplace, yes, it has a business impact, but you have to understand what their perspective is. And then how do you try to navigate between that to find a solution that works for everybody? And again, it's not HR coming and saying, here, this is what you do. It's coaching that leader so they can work through it and help build that relationship with the employee. So yeah, you can't ever take the human out of human resources. I mean, people say that all the time. If you start to pull yourself away from that, it's probably time to move on because
Yeah.
you're always going to be dealing with the people side of things, and you should be putting yourself in their shoes to understand. And everybody's different. So lots of
Oh yeah.
listening, lots of getting out of your seat. Like I said, traveling, go to the branches, go to the plants, talk to the people, and really understand their perspective because it's easy to hide in HR. It's easy to sit behind policies and to say, well, this is what the business says, or this is what I have to do. But if you really
Yep.
want to advocate for people, you have to be willing to listen, maybe change policies. Maybe something doesn't work anymore. I mean, I've done that too. Um, you talk about like bereavement or something. I mean, maybe it's not a one size fits all for everybody, but you have to be that advocate for the people in the workplace as well.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And I, looking back on some of the jobs I've had, I didn't like to sit at a desk all day, and so I would get up and I would go to our warehouse and I would talk to people, and I would be walking around my laptop because a lot of times they'd ask me questions about whatever it might be. They don't have a question until I see them and they're like, "Oh, hey, David, I got a question about my
Mhm.
paycheck," or "I got a question about this," or health insurance, blah blah blah. And then I was finding out that people were mad that I was just walking around with my laptop all day and they felt like I didn't do my job because I was just kind of goofing off. And I'm like, you try to do something that a lot of HR people would rather do more versus every time people see you, they think they're getting fired. So I was
Yep.
trying to get that camaraderie and that relationship built with a lot of these people that I saw every day. So it was just funny that the perception was that I wasn't doing my job and I was just walking around all day. I'm like, well, that's what I'm trying to do, but I'm doing my job. Like I'm not
Yep.
just, just goofing off and not really working, but I'm not going to sit in my office and just close my door all day. Like I want to be visible and available. And so it's just, but if I went and did that at other companies, they probably would have a different perception of it and really enjoy it because they may not have that. So it's
Yeah.
very specific to the company.
It is into the
So
role. I think if you're going to change the way HR shows up,
yeah,
you have to do things differently. And
yeah,
sometimes internal HR doesn't understand why you're working in a different way. So, I think we've all had to work through that where maybe you're working with a more traditional group and you seem a little different because maybe you aren't at
yep,
your desk or maybe you are
yep,
talking. It looks like you're talking all day, but you're really connecting with people and getting to know them. So it's not just changing the perception within the business and with employees, but sometimes even within HR, when you're trying to show up in a little different way to change the brand, it's not
yeah,
easy and it can be
yeah,
lonely sometimes to be on an island in between the two. So
yep,
for those people out there that are trying to change the HR brand, you've got to keep pushing along because it can be a tough place to be. And like you said, you'll
yeah,
get judged internally by HR as well.
yep. Yeah, that's one thing that I don't need to be told every day, like, great job, you're doing your job,
Hmm.
whatever. But like when employees tell me, hey, I appreciate you being available and you're quick and responsive, and I know I can come to you. Like that just makes me feel great because it really shows that these people value HR. Like they see what I'm trying to do in my role, and they have experiences before, and they're like, oh, this is different than my experiences before. So that's a big mission too that I have, is to show people what HR can be, and
Mhm.
that they are there to help them and be available and be a resource, and have that human element still. So I know some
Yep, they're
companies
your
can't.
internal customers. I mean, we don't think of
Exactly.
it that way, but they are
Exactly.
customers of HR, and HR exists to support people in the business.
Yep.
We're not here to support ourselves. It's the whole reason this function exists. So, I
Yep.
love if you have
Yep.
customer service experience or if you've worked in, the hospitality industry or retail industry, it's a great transferable skill because you can easily shift and say, the people are my customers and I'm
Yep.
here to support them in a positive way. And like you said, when you get that feedback, anyone in HR would hope if you get feedback from an employee or from a
Yeah.
leader where you help coach them and make a difference, that's 10 times more impactful than hearing, good job from internal HR, right? Like,
Yep.
you impacted something there. So it's a great call
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. So, what advice would you give somebody? Let's say they've been in HR for a couple of years. They're not as seasoned as someone like yourself. What advice would you give them about trying to navigate through a potential long term career in HR?
Well, first of all, I would ask them, is this where they really want to be? Like I said, I talk to a lot of HR people and they just end up here for some reason. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes they didn't realize this was a career option and it works.
Yeah.
And I would ask that you really make sure this is where you want to be. And then I would also challenge that you get different experiences in HR. I remember being younger and thinking, I just want to go into HR. And then when I started at a global corporation, it's like, wait a minute, there's all kinds of HR, right? There's org effectiveness, there's L&D, there's benefits. So, I would challenge that you talk to people, you rotate jobs, you figure out where you want to be in HR,
Yeah.
where you're going to make a difference for others and where you're going to feel that impact for yourself. I would also recommend, like I said, get out of your seat, get to know the business. If you don't know how your company is making money or what they do on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to make a difference. So
Yeah.
do that. And then, the other part that I think it took me a few years to catch on to this, but once I did, I ran with it. You have to find community in HR. So a lot of times, there's a lot of different ways to connect with others in the profession, and I would definitely recommend doing that. So there's, certification courses you can
Yep.
learn more and meet people. There's communities. There's podcasts like this where you can start to follow people. Get on
Yep.
LinkedIn. You can learn and be inspired by a lot of people, and sometimes you need more than what you have at your company. So it's a good thing to connect with others, and you will find different ways to be inspired, to connect with leaders, and to be able to start giving back to the community as well as you progress in your career. So
Yeah.
that's something that I wouldn't undervalue as you start to move on in your career as well.
Absolutely. So, how do you see technology, AI, HRIS systems, and some of the day to day technology that you're seeing? How is that going to help the HR experience in the future? Like, what do you see that playing a role in from an HR perspective?
Well, I'm really excited about technology. One of my first roles in HR was actually in the HRIS department, and we had created manager self-service. That was like a really big deal because now managers could go in and see things and do things, and it enables people. So I think for a long time, HR has been the gatekeeper of data and information. And again, you've got to call HR, put a case in, and wait for somebody. Now with technology, we can give people information, we can give people access so that they can get what they need right away. And then it also opens up HR instead of having to deal with transactional work to really start to focus on that strategic piece to
Yeah.
move the needle for people. So I think for me, I'm leaning into it. I'm excited about it. And I think that this is going to change the way HR shows up. For some people, it's going to be scary if you're not embracing it or if
Yeah.
you're pushing against that transactional work and you're not upskilling yourself. I think it's going to be tough in the next couple of years. So I would hope HR professionals are taking that opportunity to start upskilling and think about how they can be more strategic. But I think for the experience of HR, It's going to be better for people, because if you think of how you interact with, any brand or platform online, it makes it easier. But we also still have to understand there's a learning curve. I think of like my mom, she doesn't want to go online and do anything. She still wants to talk to somebody. So I think we still have to understand that not everybody is going to embrace it. So we're going to have to teach people, and we're going to have to be compassionate that there is a learning curve. But at the end of the day, I think it's something we're going to have to keep up with. And it is going to be a more positive experience at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I'm excited. It's one of the things my team is working on right now, and we're really excited to simplify HR. I think HR makes it complicated because we know all these things behind the scenes, benefits and compensation and L&D. People,
Right.
they just need an answer from HR, and they don't really care
Yep.
who does it. We don't make it easy for people to navigate HR all the time. So I think if we can streamline the experience and get people what they need as quickly as possible, I think that's a win for the profession.
Yeah. So explain what Kelly does for folks that have not heard of Kelly.
So Kelly is a staffing company. So we provide staffing solutions in many different ways and spaces. So I think traditionally you think of, administrative and professional or warehouse and light industrial roles, but we definitely
Yeah.
have a lot of different specialty areas in, clinical and telecom and science and engineering. So yes,
Very
all different types of, business process outsourcing and different staffing solutions.
Very cool. Yeah, it's another thing too. when I've told people about HR, and I tell them I do recruiting, I feel like a lot of people just think everybody in HR knows how to recruit. And it's
I get that
like,
all the time.
yeah, and it's like that's not the case. Like I've
Nope.
done a lot of different jobs to recruit in healthcare, consulting, and in my current role, I'm involved in recruiting. We're hiring people, and it's just like people just assume you're going to find really good people all the time, right? And that they're going to answer their phone calls, that are they're going to respond to emails and be on phone interviews, and people still ghost me all the time. It's just like I don't understand it. So it just makes it very challenging still, post pandemic. That's when a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I'm getting ghosted," whatever. I feel like, and I mean, it's still
Mhm.
happening. So, I mean, what's maybe one thing about the staffing that maybe a misconception about your industry in general and what you guys do that you feel like people should maybe have a different view on based on what you actually do?
Well, I love that you said, everyone thinks about recruiting, because I've never been a recruiter at Kelly. Like I said, I've been here 20 years and I've never recruited anyone formally, because that's never been my title. I used to do that in
Yeah.
retail, but I'm definitely not a recruiter, but I know a lot of amazing recruiters that I can connect people to. So, a myth about staffing, I think a lot of people they undervalue what a temporary role can be. A lot of people that I
Yeah.
know have started off as a temporary employee and have moved into different roles, or they assume it's just a certain type of role. They don't realize how many different roles and companies that we work with. So
Yeah.
I do hear that often, but usually the piece I hear is, people think that I'm a recruiter because I work at Kelly, and I'm not. Like I said, I know a lot of amazing recruiters, and I know it's a very challenging time right now in the industry. So, as you've mentioned with people ghosting and navigating the recruiting challenges. So I hear that from peers, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah. Some of the folks I've had on have talked about jobs available in 2030. And one in
Mm.
particular, she's an AI expert locally, and she was talking about how 85% of the jobs that will be available in 2030 haven't even been created yet. And that stat kind of just blew my mind. Like in 5 years, there will be jobs that nobody even knows about right now.
Mm.
And so I'm curious if that's similar to what you're hearing, if there's trends and different things that in 5 years you'll be having to do differently than what you're focused on now. But I just look at like our kids' ages, and if they're going to be out looking for jobs in 5 to 7 years, I'm like they're going to have jobs that they'll be potentially uh, you know looking at, and we don't even know what those are yet, because everyone thought the internet would come out and it would take a bunch of jobs away, right? Like, and then AI, people are like, well, it's going to take a bunch of jobs away. So people are like, no, it's not going to take jobs away in some instances. It's just going to create more jobs. So I don't know if that's fully accurate. I don't know if that's going to actually happen or not, but it's just kind of like, man, that's in 5 years. Is that really going to be like, are you going to be recruiting for all these different jobs that we don't even know about yet? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it's an interesting perspective. I do think if we look back 5 years, we're probably focused on different things in the workplace than we would have
Hmm.
thought that we might be. So
Yeah.
it seems really aggressive, but who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, we're definitely moving in a faster way. We have to be more agile and open to different things. And I do
Yeah.
think AI is, it's impacting the workplace and it probably will replace jobs. I mean, if you look at just, life and how things have changed, it's possible, but I think we'll have to embrace it and work within it, and it will change our jobs for the positive too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through a lot of change. I've worked through a lot of, transformation initiatives within my company, and there's a lot to be feared when we're going through change, but I think there's a ton of opportunity too.
Yep.
And I don't think we talk about some of the frustrations. Like I said, if I have to process transactions all day, I'm crabby. I do not want to be doing that work. So for me, if we have systems, if we have AI that can come in and do that kind of work,
Yeah.
it's really exciting. I think back to one of my jobs, I was in compensation for years, working manually in Excel. Like I burnt out on that. That's not something I can do all day. I
Yeah.
want to be in front of people. I want to be working on strategy. And now like that field is changing a lot. So
Yeah.
I think, for the people that find the opportunity and look for the positive and can upskill themselves or find the ways that they can continue to impact in a different way, I think it's going to be a positive. And for HR at the end of the day, we're always going to be dealing with people. And I don't think any machine or AI is ever going to replace the need to do that. So
Yeah.
that's where we can really continue to add value. So I do see that still being prominent in the HR field. And
Yeah.
again, the people that can capitalize on it, find the opportunity, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. Are you finding that more people are asking employees to work in office more than they were maybe 12 months ago, or has that not really shifted a whole lot? Like what are you hearing about all that?
I think it really does depend on the industry and the company. I mean,
Yeah.
from a lot of the people I interact with, I would say, without having data in front of me, I do feel like companies are asking people to come back from a lot of the peers I have and the friends that I have.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, some are doing it well with intention. Others are
Yeah.
just saying, come in to come in. And,
Yeah.
I don't think that's being received as well. So, um, yeah, it's an interesting space. I think it is a personal preference. And I always do advise whenever people are asking that to take into consideration that a lot of people have worked remote for a long time and it does take a
Yeah.
transition to adjust your lifestyle around it. So I would hope that companies are accommodating that and understanding. And if they are asking people to come in, understanding that it's different for everybody. Some people want to work in that space, others don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some fields where I can see that there is a need to do it
Yep.
based on the business model, and
Yeah.
I do think we'll start trending towards that in some
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, geez, 5, 7 years ago, it was all about trying to be competitive with compensation and how you're paying your employees. And now it's the added work experience as an employee and what flexibility you give them and
Hmm.
accommodations. And if people are working at home and they're looking for remote work, but you don't offer that, it might really narrow down that pool of
It might.
applicants. You know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
very specific to the company, the industry, and you got to be competitive because if everybody else in your industry is doing something that you're not, you probably should reevaluate how you want to do that if you want to hire people. So, uh,
Agreed.
all right, if there was one thing you could change about just traditional HR experiences tomorrow, what would it be and why? And I'll leave you with that question.
One thing to change about HR experience. I would make HR fun. I mean, I
Yes.
think HR people, I don't think people realize that are fun people. They like to have fun, they want to be liked, they want to be included. And I would hope that that door would open and that people could make more connections to get past some of these, historical notions of HR and maybe some of the negative brand implications, and start to realize that HR can be an advocate for you. They can help your business, and they can be enjoyable. So
Yep.
hopefully
Absolutely.
people, maybe we'll get there. Like I said, I think we still have some work to do with the branding around HR, but I think it is becoming more positive and people are seeing the value. And that would be my hope, that people would
Absolutely.
continue to do that, and that those of us in the field that want to see that change, it's not easy work, but hopefully we can continue to show up and put in, the labor around that to make sure that we're changing how HR shows up in the workplace for the better.
Yeah. No, that is awesome. I really appreciate all of your insights and feedback and suggestions for people that are in potentially an HR role, or they're not, and they might have a different perception of HR after this conversation. So, do you have any upcoming events you're going to present? You were talking about going to more events to potentially be a part of it. So, are there any upcoming events that you're going to?
I am. I'm going to HR Unite, the annual conference, which is in Frankenmuth, Michigan. So if you have not registered, I would definitely recommend checking out that. It's a great, fun time, a lot of good people, and that is in July. I think it's July 22nd through the 24th. So I would recommend checking out HR Unite. And then I am also on the board of Detroit SHRM. We have our annual conference coming up on November 6th in Southfield, Michigan. So I would definitely recommend checking out that conference, and I will be at both of them.
Very cool. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Frankenmuth. We were talking about places to go. World's biggest Christmas store, right, Bronner?
Yes, if you're a Christmas fan or German fan, it's a fun little village in Michigan. But yes, there's a great conference that happens there every year, so worth checking out.
Very cool. Well, Jennifer, I appreciate all your time. I hope you had fun on here.
Thank you.
And
I did. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, for those watching live, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure. And I obviously want people to learn from every guest, and I feel like I have learned a lot. So hopefully everybody else watching has as well. So I wish you all the best, Jennifer. I know you probably have a busy summer coming up, so enjoy it. I'm sure the weather will be nice in Michigan for quite some time until the fall and the winter. So
a little bit here.
Yes, you'll have a few months to really enjoy the weather up there. So again, thanks a lot. We'll obviously keep in touch, and wish everybody a great rest of your day, and enjoy your May, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.
Thank you.